Yeah, so we get it. 2020 sucks. Man, almost done. What have we learned? That's the question we got to ask now. And I think we've learned a lot as businesses, as individuals. So the question is, can we apply that now? And I think in the end, it's about being agile, and we have to be agile to go agile. But it's about the behavior. So let's talk about that. Hi, Brant Cooper here. I'm fortunate I get to travel around the world speaking with startup founders, investors, ecosystem developers. I've learned a lot in my travels. I've got some stories, and I have some thinking that I love to share. Welcome to Brant's Rant. Uh, the fact that this now has lasted this long, and before we're in the clear, it will have been more than a year, which is pretty extraordinary. And whatever numbers I've seen have not shown that productivity has dropped off the face of the earth because people are working at home. I'm skeptical even how that's being measured. uh, but clearly in my view, we have to be moving into a agile environment. Everybody is part of a team, and we measure the team based upon the ability of that team to accomplish a mission. And I haven't yet run into a scenario where that can't be true. In other words, that we can't form a team. Uh, Clearly, there are jobs where people have to be on site, uh, and they have individual contributor responsibilities. But you can even still, in most of those circumstances, I think, or a lot of those circumstances, you can form teams that can hold each other accountable. And this is why, if a manager is doing their job properly, they don't have to exercise control over all of those individuals. Um, their job is to assign missions and measure outcomes and facilitate communications of progress and of learning and of priorities, and aligning the work with the priorities of their group or their division. And so it's a difficult role, but it's not more difficult. I don't believe. I think it's different, and maybe that is what the Economist is conflating: is that if God forbid managers have to learn new skills, then that makes their job more difficult, as compared to back in the command and control days, where it was they simply needed to bark out orders. I think that we've learned things about ourselves, hopefully. I know I tend to be an introvert, and I recharge being on my own, and I'm comfortable with being on my own. I think for a lot of people that are more charged about around being around people, this has been really difficult. But even for someone like me, I did travel quite a bit, and I do like people, and so it's been tough. There are times that it's been super tough being locked away, but I also think it's doing the right thing, and so it really begs the question. I think this mentality that we have in the world of not doing the right thing, but doing what we sort of think is the right thing for ourselves as individuals, as opposed to our role in society. And I think that that's changing. And so I think that this is, you know, I think that the pay it forward society has moved very much in that direction over the last 10 years, in the sense that you seek to contribute value and create value first, and you don't even do it in order to receive value back. Maybe you just simply have the faith or the confidence that you will get the returns back at some point in your life. But it's also just as what keeps us motivated and satisfied and contented as human beings, is the nature of giving itself, rather than expecting some sort of a return. And so I think that pay it forward attitude is gaining steam, sort of year over year. And so I think that those that are kind of locked away mentally into making sure that they get their own, uh, is going to be problematic for those individuals in the future. And I think that even on a business level, this is true. I think we went through several decades there of sort of the art of war as the nature of doing business and crushing our competition and doing whatever it takes. Boy, there's still powerful legacies in the economy for people and companies working that way. But again, I think that there's a lot of companies that rally to help others during the pandemic, and I, to be honest, maybe I'm just an optimist, but I think that's the majority. I think the majority of people want to live meaningful lives and want to contribute, and I think it's the same thing with most executives inside of large companies. Again, my book hopefully reflects some of that. I think that there's just some mindset there that has to be changed. There's a lot of deep conventional wisdom uh, throughout the really the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s around what's the proper way of growing business and what is the role of business in society. And I think we're seeing change there too. I believe capitalist businesses need to make a profit, um, but that's in service to a mission, and that mission can be anything. The mission can include social good if the founders, investors, and shareholders and employees want it to be that way. If not, I think that's okay. But I think that that should be stated, and it should be upfront, and the company should still needs to adhere to laws and really social norms. But we're seeing an increased pushback from employees about how their businesses are behaving in terms of ethics. We're seeing groups of shareholders come together to make public their take, or at least expose to the management teams what their take is in terms of what they as shareholders view as the correct way to behave. The fact that again that all that we all run around with computers in our pockets gives us a lot of power. And I think as shareholders, as employees, as consumers, in all of these different hats that we wear in the economy, we need to make our voices heard. And I think part of that is going to change conventional wisdom around what the role of business and capitalism is in society. Unfortunately, I think the laggards, and it's sort of ironic, is the laggards are sort of the Silicon Valley neo-libertarian tech bros, to bring back, the favorite persona there. There's this sort of knee-jerk reaction I've talked about before, that the government can't do good and is too stupid to do these things, and that all of the geniuses are in the tech world, and the market will determine this and that, and laissez-faire. And so much of it is just not true, and so much of it is viewed in isolation rather than within a system. And this stuff only makes sense in a system. You can't break apart employees from employers and from consumers and from economic policy. All of these things work together in tandem, and so we have to look at the end of in the end. We have to look at the system and what the balance of the system is, and is that where we want it to be? Not breaking out the individual component and saying, "Oh, well, that represents freedom." I mean, it's hard and it gets complex. Um, but I'm telling you, if you're just sort of holding on to uh, the way we viewed a lot of this stuff in the 20th century, you're out of touch, and uh, you need to sort of wake up and do some reading. Uh, it's just extraordinary how many real experts there are in the world, and I know it's very tough to differentiate between pundits that just sort of like to hear themselves talk, and experts uh, who have truly studied and really, from a non-ideological perspective, learned what works and what does the data say and what does the evidence say. So I laugh, because am I an expert, or am I a pundit? A little bit of both, I suppose. Experts probably don't rant. Hey, thanks for listening to Brandt's Rant. If we're choosing capitalism here as a society, then let's make it work for a better world. If If you'd like to join me as we redefine capitalism for the 21st century, go to beatcoop.co/D4A. Also, if you have a pressing issue that you're facing in your innovation group, your product group, your startup, and want to join me on video, see the link below. Subscribe, like, see you next time.